Welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here again, and I'm excited to get to some of the questions. Rob. So Rob is a great patron, great supporter. I always enjoy spending time with Rob. So Rob writes, I think I've noticed people sometimes self-censor the words like have or having after diving deep into people like you or Eric Fromm. Yes. While I understand language and perception are closely interrelated, is it extreme to frequently reframe the language you generate into being mode style? I guess, do you try to think and talk with being mode expressions or having mode expressions purposefully, or does the choice of the words and phrases we use afford our inter and intrapsychic landscape through their use and expression? I think that's an excellent question. And I do try to correct my language so that my language is mode appropriate to the mode that is appropriate to the situation at hand. So if I'm in a situation in which it is appropriate to be in the having mode, I do try. That's usually something I can just allow happen. But if I'm in a situation in which the being mode is more appropriate, one of the things I do to try and trigger the restructuring into the being mode and maintaining myself within it is to actually use more being mode expressions and language. But notice what I said. That isn't a across the board trying to replace having mode with being mode language. If that's what's happening, I would argue that that's actually a misunderstanding of Fromm and a misunderstanding of how I've been using Fromm. The point is not that the having mode is bad or the being mode is good, or that you should at all times, in all places, and in all ways try to always be in the being mode. That's a mistake. The mistake, right? The thing you're trying to correct is modal confusion. Sometimes you should be in the having mode, and therefore having language is completely appropriate. Sometimes you need to be in the being mode, and therefore you can help to structure that by using language that is more directly appropriate to the being mode. So I think it's important to be, sorry, I hope this doesn't sound hackneyed or cliche. It's important to be wise in this. It's important, right, to be flexibly responsive with the discerning eye to the situation you're in, the mode that is appropriate, and the language that is appropriate to that mode. For me, this is part of, the promise I make when I'm doing the 5 promises. In reverence and respect for the power and promise of speech, I promise not to speak foolishly or falsely, but to speak wisely in the aspiration to enlightenment. So, noting how much speech and humanity are woven together, I always try to use my language wisely. But wisely doesn't mean in a formulaic fashion. It means with reflexible discernment, like I just said. So I think it's very important to try to meet that promise. It's a version of the traditional training precepts, but it's important to not meet it formulaically, but meet it with finesse and wisdom.
Saruman believes that it is only great power that can hold evil in check. But that is not what I have found. I found it is the small things, everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keeps the darkness at bay. Simple acts of kindness and love. Why Bilbo Baggins? Perhaps it is because I'm afraid. It gives me courage.